Hi there, this is Kenneth B, and you're watching Blue Collar Guy. Okay, we're back. So, today we're going to talk about a different kind of load tester. This is a larger model that can take a lot more current. It can also be used to test power stations by draining them down, and it will tell you down here how many watt hours and that sort of thing. You can actually reset all the parameters just by holding that button down. It tells you the temperature and that sort of thing. So but today we're going to be testing something a little different. So one Christmas I got as a gift, I got let's move this out of the way. I got one of these. This is a multiple USB charging station. So when you plug something in, this little guy here lights up and it tells you that it's charging it. If I plug this in, it'll charge this. There's a bit of a communication handshake. Then one of these will light up and it'll tell you that it's being charged. I noticed that some of them, like this one in particular, on the end here, would get rather warm. So it says it is rated for 6.8 amps. I'll zoom out a little bit here so you can see that. Move the camera back just a little bit there so we can get that into focus. Okay, so 6.3 amps. It's a smart USB. So if you exceed that, then you could run into some troubles. Now, even though this one here was, it looks like it had some kind of certification. It says 34 watts, and it's got the model number, 5 volts, 6.8 amps, 34 watts. So 34 watts is between all of these, not just one. So I'm going to test it to see if it can do what it says it does. It claims that it can put out 5 volts at 6.8 amps and 34 watts. So that's why I got this unit here. This unit here is more than capable of not only going to that limit, but exceeding it. Now, this particular unit here, you might have seen me use this one. This one is rated for, I believe, 22 watts. So it's not rated for, it would be at the maximum capacity of this. So this one here, though, 150 watts. So that's why you have to get out the big boys sometimes. So I've got it plugged in through the USB-C, and we're going to see what happens. Right now, at 0, it is claiming 5.17 volts. Okay, so 5.17 volts. Okay, and we're testing this device here. Okay, so, and it was called a Blue Hive multiple station charger. So it is a charging unit designed to charge multiple devices. That's what it's for. Those little slots are just so that you can set your phone in there. So, like, I'll just bring it into view again. So if you put your phone in there, it would rest in there, and you'd be able to charge it. So let's just see what kind of trouble we can get into. Okay, so we're going to start turning up the knob here. Let me just get everything into view, and I'm going to increase it. And there we go. So we're at almost half an amp, and if you look, the voltage is already dropped. Well, if this thing is rated at 5 volts at 6.8 amps, it's not doing so good right now because it's already dropped down. Temperature says 26 degrees. We're a little over an amp, and it's dropped down to 5.6. and we're only consuming 5.16 watts. So really it's only capable of charging one device and not even rapidly. So let's do something else. Let's just increase this here. All right. We're going to go up to 3.41 amps. Up to 4 amps. I have to be careful not to exceed the device's limitations here. I also have brought in my thermal camera. Let me just see if I can figure out where I may have placed that. Oh, it's over here. And this is just a cheap little thermal camera. You can get them on Amazon. The resolution is quite poor. However, they are pretty accurate on some of their temperature readings. For instance, if you look at the little crosshairs, it will lock onto the highest temperature. I am feeling the cable. The cable is getting warm. The cable is really warm. Look at that. It says here the cable's at 45 degrees Celsius. And the tip though, tip isn't too bad. Tip has dropped down to 40, but this thin cable, this is getting hot. And I'm pulling 5 amps through that cable. So I'm going to turn this down. Okay. And we're going to get a another cable, and we're going to see if a thicker cable might be better. And this is another reason why to pay attention to your cables. Feel them with your hands. If they feel that they're getting warm, that's not a good sign. That's a fire hazard. So we're going to unplug this. Feel the tip. Tip isn't bad, but the cable itself, very warm. And it was it's warm over here. So if you look at this, I'll just get this into view. It is a little bit toasty on that end of it. That's the cable there. 40 degrees. I'm going to get a little bit better of a quality of a cable, and we'll see if that improves things. I just have to see where I've placed my more expensive cables. No, it's the same one. All right, so be 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have another cable, and this is a good quality cable. It even has a power indicator on it, and we're going to use this now. So I'm going to plug that one in. I'm going to go into the USB jack again. Oh, actually, I'm going to flip that around because I want you to see that it's getting power. There's the power. There we go. All right. So let's see how hot we can get this cable. This is a better quality cable. Oh. 5.4. I'm going to try to, the light, look at that, the light went down because we're pulling so much current that the voltage is dropped so significantly. So there's no way this can put out 6.8. There's no way, because it's just killing on the, you know, it's saying 22 watts right now. Let me see if I can push this thing. .7. This is my fine tune. There we go. 6.85, 6.8. We're only showing 3.37. So at 6.8 amps is what this is rated for. It drops it down to 3.45. That could hurt your equipment. And we're still only getting 22 watts, and it's telling me 32 degrees Celsius. This cable, mind you, is holding up much better. It's not getting nearly as warm. So the cable is pretty good. So thicker cable, always remember that. And especially if you run long cables, like really long cables, get very high quality ones, because you don't want to cook anything. And they'll also be more conductive, so they'll pass on the voltage. But this one, realistically, to get it so that it's, yeah, 1.5 amps, charges at 7 watts, you know. And if I plug something else into this over here, that's going to also, so I have another load tester. So what do you say we double team this puppy? Okay, so this is the advantage of having 2 load testers, is that, whoops, we can really push things to see if it's rated overall or just part. So let me see, I'm going to plug this in here. So here is my other load tester. Okay, this one's not rated for as many watts, but we're going to see if the numbers change on here. So, okay, 7.4 amps. I'll raise that up to 1 amp. So I'm going to try to make this 1 amp exactly. It seems like they both run off 1 amp. Keep it around 1 amp. I'm going to do this one too. It's harder to read this, but I'm going to bring it up to 1 amp exactly. Okay. So it didn't adjust this. So they're independent. So 6 amps, they're actually timesing it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.8 amps over 4 different jacks. Now I don't have any more load testers, but you know, if I was to crank this one here up, let's say I crank this up, will it affect the other one? Let me see. Okay. Go up to 2 amps. It's not affecting the other one. Okay, there's 2 amps. I got 2 amps. I don't know if you can read that or not. And this one here is unaffected. It's pulling out 5.11 watts. If I change my settings on here, it says 8.6 watts. 4.3 volts. Going to lower it down to 1.5 amps. .7 watts. and 4.5 volts. And if I take it down to 1 amp, which is I think what they're really rated for, got 4.7 volts, which is pretty close, 4.8 volts, 4.7 watts. So there you go. So if you ever do get one of these little power, let me just unplug all of this. If you ever do get one of these little power units, this one's called Blue Hive. Blue Hive. Just remember that it's not more than 1 amp on each one. So really, I would say their 6.8 is kind of an exaggeration. It's more like 4 amps, 1 amp per outlet, 5 watts per outlet. So 5, 10, 15, 20. It says 34 watts. That's a stretch. So the specifications on this particular one are not that accurate. However, as long as you're only plugging in things that are slow charging and not fast charging, or trying to draw too much current, you won't have a problem. But whenever you're using one of these, just make sure you don't use really thin cables like this. Try to get some really decent ones, kind of like these ones here. You know, Anchor makes some good ones too, so I'd recommend that. You know, when I came home one day and felt one of my cables and it was just scalding hot, and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, geez, you know, you could burn the house down without even realizing it, because, you know, that's the thing, is people don't think that these things here can start fires. Well, I got news. They can, if you're not careful. And if it wasn't for the fact that I check my equipment on a regular basis, I could have let that go on for days. Like, what if I took off for the weekend or something, you know, and left something plugged in there? So don't just trust these devices immediately. You know, really take a good hard look at them and make sure they're decent quality. All right, so that's kind of the review on that, and also explains why we use things like these load testers to test equipment. Now keep in mind that this particular unit, even though it was sold here in Canada, because I do believe it was bought in a retail store, does not hold the UL certification. It holds something almost equivalent to that, but not quite. So be careful of that. You want things that are CSA approved and UL listed, which means Underwriter Laboratories, or ULC, which is Underwriter Laboratories of Canada. This little guy here, you don't need to get yourself one of these. This is just a little cheap little thermal camera, just to show you, you know, how hot things can get, and I find it to be a little bit handy. You can also use those ones with the laser, where you just point the dot on there and it'll tell you the temperature. This one kind of just gets shows you an overall picture of what's happening. Anyways, that's the video on that. So whenever you're dealing with a lot of these little USB type of things, I've gotten into these little testers because you know, people are having situations where there's fires, and fires in apartment buildings, fires in houses. We rely a lot on these USBs, and we just assume that everything is safe, and it is not necessarily so. So be careful when you buy cheap electronics. You don't need to have expensive equipment. Just feel it with your hand. Use your hand as the guide. If the cable, whenever you grab cables, if they feel warm to the touch, like really warm, then that is a good sign that there's a problem. So one of the best testers you got is your own body. So just keep that in mind. And I will see you at the next video, and be safe at work. Bye.